guys? How are you? So today's lesson's on the harmonic minor scale, and it's an altered scale. It deviates from what's called the natural minor scale, so I want to show you what that is all about today. So without further ado, let's jump into that particular lesson. Here it is. All right, so we have it all laid out here for you. We have the natural minor scale, which is the heart of where the harmonic minor scale, if I can say it, where it originates. So without the natural minor, we can't have the harmonic minor. So what is it exactly? So we have the notes A through G here in the music alphabet. We have it all underneath here, as we can see. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then we have the octave A right there. So the first note, measure 1, and the last note of measure 2 are the same. They're separated by an octave. So they're both A's, but one is lower than the other A. So that's the deal with that. So what happens is with the harmonic minor scale, we take this G, which is the open third string, we raise it up a half step to first fret on the same string, and we get the G sharp. So what I'm going to do now is play you both scales. You'll hear them, and you'll get to see what I'm talking about and also hear what I'm talking about. Speaking of seeing, check out the fretboard view here on screen. This will highlight all the notes. If you're not too keen on reading the notes off the page or a tablature set up for reading, look to the fretboard view. You'll see things light up right in there. Here it is. And now the harmonic minor scale. Here it is. Okay, so that's the deal, and knowing the scales helps you with understanding the chords, so you can't have one without the other. So the scale is the place where you build your chords. And speaking of which, I included chord arpeggios. So these are the chord tones played one at a time, and they're all seventh chords, by the way. So triads are the typical place to kind of hang in terms of playing chords, but if you want to expand outward and you're ready for new chords, these will definitely get you going in the arpeggio form. These aren't chord arpeggio patterns. They're just laid out within the first 4 frets in this case for this lesson. Okay, so we have the open A string, we got the 3rd fret on the A string, 2nd fret on the D string, 1st fret on the G string, which is where the G sharp is. So right off the bat, we get to encounter the A note and what's called a major 7th above that. So if it was a regular G note, it would be a minor 7th. So we have the raised note that gives you what they call a major 7. So it's an A minor chord with a major 7 attached to it. So it's A minor as the chord quality. The major 7 is the interval that's away from the first note. Okay, intervals are just spacings between notes, and we assign numbers to those, and also qualities of major and minor, diminished, augmented. Not in the case of the 7th, but sharp 9s, sharp 11s, sharp 13, all that fancy jargon. That's what that all entails. It's just alterations of notes past the octave when you get to ninths and things like that above the octave. So that's kind of what this is. This is inside the octave. So A to G sharp is a major 7, and then octave would be that sound. Okay, so that's how that works out. And you can see all these notes light up in the arpeggios in the fretboard view. So without further ado, let's do some of that. Here it is. Okay, now the next thing will be the chords, so we'll talk about those in a second. So if you're having trouble following the top here, just follow the fretboard view on the bottom. I mentioned it a few times already. That's a great place to go. So if you're really stuck on what's going on in this scene, don't worry about it. Just keep your eyes on the fretboard view. Okay. So the next part of this is the chords. So that's the reason why we have all this crazy looking stuff, above each chord name. We have the B half diminished, which is the typical chord from this key, which is the key of C, by the way. A minor is the related minor key to the major key. They both share the same exact 7 notes, which are these guys on top: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Those are the notes of the C major scale starting from A. So we get what's called the A natural minor scale, because both keys, in this case the natural and the major, are the exact same thing. Nothing's different. We share the same notes when you go from minor from the major. Okay, so that's how that all works. Again, don't worry about it. The main point of this is sound, right? We want to be able to sort of home in on a new sound and use it, right? And the chords can go with it, with the chord arpeggios, or as we're now getting to, the chords themselves. A minor major 7, B, this is like a B minor 7 flat 5, or B half diminished 7th chord. That's what that all is about. We'll talk about those in a moment. C major 7 with a sharp 5, typically with major 7 chords. In the key of C, the major 7 is that, but if you add a sharp 5, that's where the G sharp comes in. Check this out. And you're going to hear this when we play through this section of the lesson. D minor 7, sharp 11. We're not going to worry about it because there's no G sharp present here. So D minor 7 would be the name of this chord. This is what the program feeds out, by the way, the notation program I'm using. Same thing with this. E7 would be the main chord, okay? And these are the extensions, they call them, okay? So don't worry about those. We're not covering them in this particular lesson because they're not here, okay? F major 7, same thing. I'll go through the diagrams in a second. F major 7 is the naturally occurring chord that you would get in C major. There's no G sharp. If there was a G sharp, that would be the sharp 9 of this chord. We don't have it. Don't worry about it. Now we do have a G sharp. We have G sharp diminished 7. So we got 2 types of diminished chords from the harmonic minor scale. So it's very interesting. You can play, and you can play that, and then go to a major, in this case A minor with the major 7 in it, which is a very funky chord progression. So you might want to just do a regular A minor chord off of this G sharp diminished 7 chord, and then go to A minor if you want. Okay. Again, all this stuff is sound, so you can do whatever you want with these sounds. That's the whole point of this, again, is to take the sounds you hear and do stuff with them. You may want to mess around with an A minor chord and go to A minor major 7 and see what that sounds like, So there's a lot of options here with any kind of lesson like this. You get sounds presented, you can take them anywhere you want to go. Okay, so that's the chord part. So now we've outlined the chords. We can see what's inside each chord if I can get to them, which are right on top of the page. A minor major 7, the notes are A, C, E, G sharp. Typically I talk about chords in the beginning of these kinds of lessons, but being that it's a scale lesson, I'm saving this to the end. So if you want to get a little more in depth with the chords and what's inside of them, this is the great place to come to for this part of the video. So A, C, E, G sharp, that's the notes that spell this chord. A minor is spelled A, C, E. The major 7 is the G sharp part, which comes from the harmonic minor scale. That's why it's called this. So the names of the chords change depending on the scale. Again, scales and chords are related. You can't have one with the other without the other. Having trouble speaking today. Anyway, so same thing with the next chord. It's the exact same chord, different ways of writing it out. A minor major 7. Same stuff, same fingering, same notes. Okay. So there's some repeated chords on top of the page. You'll notice this one is also over here. Same as that chord, so I won't go through it twice. B, D, F, and A are the notes that spell out this chord. So each of these chords are in arpeggio form in the lesson here, as I just went through before I got to this section, okay? So the arpeggios are spelling out all of your chords for you, and they're just played as separate tones like a melody, okay? So now we got our harmony with the chords, okay? So today melody came first, now we're on the harmony. C major 7, with the G open string, you can see the name changes to C major 7, but if I put the note back in, it gives me this chord, which is really weird. We're not going to worry about that. E/C is another way of calling this chord because we have the E, we have the G sharp, a B, and an E, which spell out E major. So that's why they throw it to this. They call it E/C because E is the lowest. It's actually the name of the chord, E, but then there's a C in the bass, which is right here. So there's different ways of calling these chords. There's different names for these, right? So C major 7 with a sharp 5 is what we're going for. Okay, that's the function of that. both chord names be right, by the way. But for the purpose of our thing, we're going through these chords alphabetically. D, F, A, and C spell out D minor 7. And to bring back the conversation of the fretboard view, wherever these letters are in any of these chords I've just described, look right to the bottom here in your fretboard view. You can, and in fact, one of the chords is already highlighted, right? This is the A minor major 7 chord being highlighted, okay? So it works great, you know. So you can, if you want to see what's inside the chord, you can click on anything that's chord related in this lesson, which would be down here, right? And then that chord will highlight. So I hit this chord here. That's good to go. I'm going to go to this measure. I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong spot. This one right here. At the very bottom, which is where we are right now, you can see what's highlighted right here. B, F, A, and D, right? From low E string to high E string. Low E string is the bottom string. A lot of people call this the top string. It's not. It's the bottom string because it's of sound from low to high. So when you do the chord from low to high, you're playing through the strings with your right hand in this direction, okay? So C major 7 sharp 5, that's that chord we went through a moment ago. It's highlighted right here, all right? So if you just, you know, do that, you can't click on these, obviously. I'm clicking on them, right? Here's the D minor 7 sharp 11. Again, sharp 11 we're not worrying about. We have D, we have the A, we got the C and the F, okay? And that's directly related to all this stuff up here, right? So that's that chord that's being highlighted right now. So you can't click on the chords in the score. I'm doing that for you, obviously. But you can go and see the chords lit up when the playback happens, which is I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go right to this part of the score, since that's where we are, and let these things play through. And watch the fretboard view as I do it. But again, before I do that, let's finish out discussing what's in each of these chords. Okay, so we're back on top. Sorry for all this scrolling up and down. Okay, E7, if I take out this note, that would be the typical way of playing your E7 chord, right? You have an E, you got a G sharp, a B, and a D. That's your spelling, also reinforced by the arpeggios in this lesson. Now if I put the D back in, I usually play this with my pinky. It's just more comfortable for me. You can put ring finger there if you got larger fingers and you can spread out more. You can grab that note there, the D, with your ring finger rather than the pinky. So I like to use that finger. It's just more comfortable for my hand. So fingerings for diagrams can change depending on your hand. So don't be too concerned with keeping to the fingering that's here. It's just a guide. If you want to change it, you can. E, G sharp, B, and D is your E7 chord, okay? And onward to the next, F major 7. So F, A, C, and E are the notes of F major 7 spelled out. Again, in the arpeggios, this is lined out for you. So there it is. That's a nice sounding chord. Next door to that in this diagram on top of the page, if I can X out of here. Same thing, F major 7 sharp 9. That's if the G sharp was here, but it's not. Don't worry about it. That's just, again, the extension, what the program feeds out. So G sharp diminished 7, G sharp, B, D, F are the notes that spell out G sharp diminished 7. Again, the arpeggios illustrate that. All right, so that's the deal there. It's not giving you the notes like this. They're just played separately. This is the chord you would have if you wanted to play the chord over this scale, which is the idea too. While the scale's being played from earlier on in this video, you can grab a chord and play, you know, that chord against, you know, this whole scene right here and see what it sounds like. Okay, and that's it. That's everybody. That's the entire chord collection. Now we get to hear what it sounds like finally. Okay, here it is. Okay, that's the whole thing. I let that whole series repeat. Of course, you got to hear that. So if you're trying to learn new chords, even though this tempo might seem a little fast, if it does seem fast at this part of the lesson or the entire thing seems fast, use the playback settings on the YouTube video and you can slow it down to whatever increment you want to slow it down. And conversely, if it's too slow, you can speed the video up if you want to. And you won't get quite the chipmunk sound, but you'll get a faster speak through. If you want to do it that way, it's up to you what you want to do. So that's the whole scene, guys. That's everybody. Okay, that's what I want to share with you today, is that scale. And it's pretty popular in like rock and metal, especially metal. If you're into Yngwie Malmsteen, he uses this particular type of scale pretty commonly in his music. So Ritchie Blackmore would be another one. John Petrucci on occasion, depending on. So it's not really assigned to like rock and metal and prog rock and prog metal, but you will hear it in there. So it's a very popular scale in classical music. So if you're into classical, jazz, it depends on the player. You might hear a little smattering of it, but jazz is more chromatic than what I just showed you. So you may get a glimpse of something like that in that style, but not really. It's not very common unless you do some avant-garde type of style of jazz. You may run across it. So that's the scale pretty much. Again, very exotic sounding. It's a really nice scale to know if you don't know it. And that's how you get to the scale. So in the very beginning, I want to cover how you actually get to that type of scale. And it's not just in this key, it's in every key. So if you raise the 7th note of any minor scale from the natural to the raising of the 7th, you'll get harmonic minor, but it has to be from the natural minor scale that's in the key in order to get that type of sound and that altered scale quality. And then the chords are a bonus, right? So again, chords can't happen unless you have the scale behind them. And that's, again, melody and harmony. Scale is melody, chords are harmony. So you can't have one without the other. They're both connected, okay? So that's the deal. So if you like the video, feel free to like and subscribe. If you have any questions about any of the stuff, like I said, if I went too fast or too slow or whatever, leave me a comment about it. Any questions, I'll answer them. If I had to do a separate video and create a separate video based on your questions, I will. And that could be like a live type video where I live stream it and address the questions and do demonstration. So I leave it up to you guys to do the playing. But if you want more explanation, please feel free to reach out and let me know. And that is it. So look for the next videos here or here. Thank you for subscribing. To those who are subscribed, the channel is growing and I'm pretty happy. And my whole thing is I'm here to help. Okay, so I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.